Although in-game trades are common, I want to take this video as a look into some of the most interesting ones to find, as well as the most infamous and convoluted. So let's look at Pokemon in-game trading. The Japanese versions of the game, it looks like, from what I can see, there are some exclusive ones that we didn't see, including the Japanese version of Pokemon Blue featuring a trade from a man in Cerulean City at the house next to the Pokemon Center requesting a Machoke, and in return would trade you a Haunter. This Haunter would then immediately evolve after the trade because Haunter is a trade evolution to get to Gengar, and you were able to have one of those early on and without needing another player to trade with. Another convenient trade like that happens with someone on the Cinnabar Island lab. They are requesting a Kadabra, and in return they'll trade you a Graveler, who then immediately evolves into Golem. These are the trades I'm a fan of, to allow the player the chance to see these Pokemon, and if they had no cable or friends to trade with to make it happen, they at least have this in-game option. In Pokemon Yellow, it looks like you get a chance at a Machamp trade evolution through someone near the underground tunnel. They're requesting a Cubone, and in return they'll trade you a Machoke, who then immediately evolves into Machamp. Once again, that's great. If you see me referencing a spreadsheet, I will have it linked down below that someone had done of gift Pokemon, of trade Pokemon, of fossils, and game prize Pokemon, just everything, a checklist you can get, or there's a lot of resources online. There's also sometimes unused trades that pop up. So for example, in Red and Blue, there was an unused trade for Beedrill and Butterfree, and you can no longer access it through normal means. Diamond and Pearl also had not a lot, but it had the infamous Gasper trade. Gasper is the name of a Haunter named by Mindy. Mindy is up in the snowy mountain. Mindy is waiting in a house for you. Mindy wants to trade her Gasper, her Haunter, with your Medicham in return. Now, you might be thinking, this is a wonderful trade. If I get Haunter, I can get it to evolve immediately into Gengar without even needing my Japanese Blue version with the exclusive trade on that. No, that's not what happens. You anticipate this Haunter to turn into a Gengar, but it doesn't. Mindy has played a cruel trick on you. Mindy and Haunter are in cahoots. Mindy has given it an Everstone and traded it away happily, knowing this. And then once you get it, she probably just loves to see your face drop as you realize that that Everstone means that Gasper is not going to evolve. Ridiculous. Also, while looking at this spreadsheet, there's like a Finneon trade that says don't get soft locked. I was curious about this, but apparently, so you can't get soft locked really. So the trainer is requesting Finneon, and if that Finneon you had Surf on it, I guess in theory you could be stuck because this is like an island home. But don't worry, if you have Finneon, if you're at this place in the game, you should have a rod, and you can just fish up a fish Pokemon and then use Surf on that. They also put near Gasper, so the Haunter and Medicham, Snowpoint City in a house, get ready for a surprise. In Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you're the one who's about to make the NPC's day by trading away a Haunter in exchange for a Xatu. You know what's going on. Hopefully you did not give it an Everstone and chose the evil dark side of Mindy. There's two wolves inside me. One is telling me to put Everstone on this Haunter, the other's not. But anyway, no, so you get to do that and you get Xatu, and Xatu doesn't evolve again. But if you like Xatu, I hope you like the trade. The Xatu's kind of cool. I don't know. But yeah, wish you could see it through, as in like having a battle with this NPC after the trade, and you get to see them pull out this Gengar. That'd be kind of fun. Now, kudos to Black 2 White 2 for having a huge trade pool, but a huge chunk is from one character over and over again. The character is dependent on whether you play as a boy or girl in the game, with the gal named Yancy if you chose a guy, and Curtis if you chose the gal. As you can see, they have a ton of available Pokemon for trade, and they ask for any Pokemon in return. But then you might also notice the warnings. Convoluted process, they say. To get these trades is rather convoluted. Sarah B agrees. Let me just say, it's one hell of a journey to get these trades, and it starts in Mombasa City near the amusement park area with a lone Pokeball. You think it's an item, and it is, but it turns out to be a dropped item. The owner then calls, but you can't see them because they are using an older X-Transceiver thing. And although they'd love to pick it up, they are strapped down with work. This is going to be a huge theme. So for now, it's entrusted to you to carry it around until their day off kicks in or something like that. You need them to call you back, and you guys will talk at least 10 other times before this thing gets turned over to the owner. And it isn't as though it's based on something reasonable like step counting, badge counting, anything like that. Nah, these calls are triggered by stepping in very specific spots. I had to look this up, of course, and thankfully there's pictures to go off of, but it's truly precise in the fact that, like, I would be running and then hit that spot and bam, immediately, frozen, call happening. And you'll want to pay attention to these spots. The first is in Mombasa City, and then I went to a spot on Route 5 behind the fence. Then there's a spot in the corner here in Driftfield City. There's a spot with no grass on it on Route 6. You can go to the airstrip and trigger a call in Mistralton City, and then head to a spot in Route 7. Then I continued to Lentimus Town, and then Undula Town. Lastly, Route 12, but there's more spots you can choose from. Well, once that's over with, and after you've spoken to this vocal-only person so many times, they're finally able to retrieve their dropped item. Go back to the Ferris wheel to meet them, and let me just say, Yancy's adorable, and I really like her. I guess Curtis is okay, but not as great as Yancy in my opinion. They finally get their dropped item back, and you can finally register them as an actual person in this thing. Then the task becomes calling them many times. Specifically, you'll want to call them a total of 30 times. But for some reason, you can't call them whenever or wherever you want. I thought this was like a phone, but instead, these guys are like roamers, and their X-Transceiver name or number is also just roamer logic. If you return to the spots from before, thankfully, you don't have to be on precise tiles. You can just be in the proximity, in the area. So like, you can just be on the route entrance. You don't have to go all the way to these spots, but once you're able to do that call, you have to be constantly checking their X-Transceiver thing to see if it's available so you can call them. Take those chances to call when you find them available. They don't have much to say because their work keeps them so busy, and each time they talk, they're hammering it into you that they gotta go back to work immediately. This can be a bit of a grind trying to get these locations correct and be able to call them. You know, there's a randomness element. It's a mess. There's other guides that show, you know, you can loop around, make it efficient, streamline it.
This is a fairly tedious process, but I shall run through the quickest way to do this. First, start off in Mombasa City. Check the cross transceiver to see if Yancy or Curtis' number is there. If it is, call them. If not, proceed to Route 5. When on the route, check the cross transceiver again, and call if the number is present. Then head to Route 16 and check once again. Then fly to Jiffrail City and check the cross transceiver for the number. After doing this, head on to Route 6 and check yet again. Then fly to Motion City and check for the number. Then head north to Route 7 and once again check. After this, fly to Oplucid City and head west to Route 9, where you should check the cross transceiver again, before heading back through Oplucid and onto Route 11, where yet again the cross transceiver will be checked. Then fly to Lacanose Town and check once again, before heading onto Route 13 and checking, before heading back through Lacanose Town onto Route 12 and check once again there. Then fly to Undula Town and head south onto Route 14, where you should check the cross transceiver for the last time. Then fly to Mombasa City and repeat the process. If you are efficient enough, this process can be completed in under an hour.
But essentially, we're going in a circle. Check in Mombasa, go to Route 5, then go to the other side, go to Driftfield City to check, go to Route 6 to check, go to Mistralton City to check, and so on. Eventually, you will reach 30, and once you do, they will tell you to meet them again at the Ferris wheel in Mombasa City. There, you go ride the Ferris wheel with them, and you earned it. That was a lot. But we aren't done. After that joyful experience, it's time to call them 20 more times, for a total of 50 calls. So repeat what you've been doing, cycling through locations, checking the device to see if you're able to call, and then calling when you're able to. It might be tedious, but you can knock it out, don't worry. Eventually, you'll hit the 40th call, which is marked by a retro sound-only call like before, throwback. And then it isn't until the 50th call that you get a surprise, a jump scare of their work clothes. This automatically cuts it immediately, so you're only able to catch a glimpse of what they don't want you to see. You can call them back and everything returns to normal, as though it never happened. And don't worry, there's definitely more work talk. It never ends. But once you've called them 51 times, yeah, a whopping 51 times, you can then meet outside the Ferris wheel for a trade. They do have a nice variety of Pokemon, and this becomes a once per day thing. You call them, you meet them, you ride the Ferris wheel, and then you get hit with a trade request. Thankfully, you're able to trade off any Pokemon in return for the ones they have, and that's a pretty decent number of them to get. They are rare Pokemon, not normally available in Unova, which makes it more interesting, and apparently they have hidden abilities. So, the Pokemon are pretty nice to get in return for all of your hard work. And the Pokemon you get from Yancy and Curtis are similar, but not exact lists. For example, getting a Mankey from Curtis, whereas you get a Meowth from Yancy. There's a good amount of Pokemon, and honestly, I'm just happy they included this niche in-game trade extravaganza. It is convoluted, but you can definitely do it, and then once you do, you get access to a lot of cool Pokemon, so there's that. But yeah, all in all, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the journey with me. That was also hopefully not convoluted of a video, but no, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye!